Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Three C's podcast. You've got myself, Sara Williamson, joined by the lovely Nicole Kirby from Macmillan, and of course, lovely Alison McGrath, part of the NY Mid Yorkshire Breast Cancer Support Group. So, just to start us off, Nicole, for those that don't know you, tell us a bit about your work role with Macmillan.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you very much for doing this, by the way, both of you. I really appreciate it. Um, so my role with Macmillan, I'm an engagement lead, and what that involves is working alongside people living with cancer, to change services, basically, to improve services. And I also work alongside support groups as well to help them in any way they need, really. Um, and that's because how we came into contact with one another when I was very fortunate to work with both of you on a project last year and the year before. It went on for a whole year, didn't it?
It did, yeah. There were two videos. One was called Get Involved, and one was about sharing your experience. And we kind of worked on how we could shape the future of cancer services, both from a patient point of view and also from a professional point of view. And it's worth mentioning that if anyone wants to see those videos, they can find them on the Macmillan website under the volunteering, get involved. And if you just cursor down, you'll find those videos there. So, yes, we had fun and games for a year, didn't we? And I guess we kind of came across each other in different guises at various meetings and training sessions. And we kind of approached you for a little bit of money as well, didn't we? To support us with things like being able to have Zoom or the facility to talk with patients when we can't actually physically meet. So, do you want to ask us any questions around the work we've been doing? Oh,
I'd love to, yeah. What always impresses me about cancer support groups is their adaptability and their unwavering willingness to support one another. I mean, I've found, being lucky enough to work with a range of cancer support groups, including yours, of course, that the support you're providing is absolutely essential to people, to help them get through and to support them throughout their cancer experience and beyond, because of course many of you make friendships and it's a long-term friendship that develops from it. And I think that what I've seen during this pandemic is how even more essential these groups have become, really. And I was just thinking about, not only about, I want to come on and ask you in a minute about all the stuff your group's been doing, if that's all right. But I wondered if I could just talk to you a little bit about the kind of things yourselves, both of you, and your members are telling you, like, have you found lockdown difficult? Has it been hard not meeting? Those kind of things. And I think as well, shielding's been a big concern for us and for the people we've talked to. Obviously, that's coming to an end soon as well. So I wondered if you would just mind kind of telling me about the kind of things you've been experiencing, really, and your members. Would that be all right?
yeah. I think although we're coming towards the end of shielding, we do have fear at local level that that's going to be a local lockdown. Um, where we've planned in classes and things like opening up Emma's gym, the wellness centre, I've had to hold back advertising that, having spoken to a local counsellor who suspects Wakefield is going to be a lockdown area. So we're
Oh,
just
really?
for clarity, yeah, because we've had there's a bed factory in Ossett, literally 2 miles from where I live, and then I'd say about 10 to 12 miles away, Normanton, where there's a business there that has a lot of people with symptoms, but obviously during the heat and the summer, not everyone's showing symptoms. So that's a big concern as to how we can plan forward. And sometimes we're going 2 steps forward and 3 back to constantly adapt and change to the current climate. But I think Alison would be really well equipped to talk about the tea and talk sessions that we run as a teleconferencing service on a Wednesday and a Saturday, 10:30 till 11:30, which is then followed by a gym session by Emma Kirk for an hour. So, Ali, do you want to kind of talk about some of the issues that are presented without revealing confidentialities?
Yeah, I think it's helped some of our members, like you say, through shielding because obviously they're isolated. Some of our older members, especially because they've had the shield, have been quite nervous about sort of even going out at all. And then certainly now where they're having a little bit more freedom because they've had so long without being anywhere or doing anything, they're even more nervous. And it's kind of using what, because I'm lucky enough not to have had to do any shielding, sort of using what I've learned and what I've been able to do to sort of encourage them and say, look, just try, I don't know, going for a walk for 5 minutes. And if you're nervous, then just come back and give it another try another day. So like Sara said, it's with some of them, it is literally 3 steps forward and then 2 back. But we're kind of trying to get them to make it more, you know, another step forward each time. And it's kind of trying to use, you know, the confidence and the things that I've done to help them to be a bit more positive. And we've talked a lot about nature, haven't we, Sara? How if you're not going out, if you're lucky enough to have a garden, you know, a lot of us have spent a lot of time in the garden. We've had more time to observe the birds and things like that. So it's kind of always trying to turn any negatives into positives if we can. And I think it's just knowing that there's somebody at the other end of the line, isn't it, really?
I think
yeah.
Groups is people that are living in flats who don't have a garden. They mix in a communal garden. Some of them don't have online banking, so don't know how to order food. So we had to look at some people with food deliveries, show them how to register at local level to get prioritised shopping. And with lockdown opening up, some people are really fearful that they're going to lose that food slot.
Yeah, I wondered about, sorry, Sara. Yeah, I was just going to say, I wondered about that because I've heard that from discussions with other people as well in other areas that actually at least the shielding status and the status that came with being classed, you know, some people were as extremely vulnerable, meant that they had those food slots and they had those services that they could access, and they're worrying about not being able to access those anymore. So that's something people have been talking to you about.
Yeah, I mean, we had really high call volume start with people receiving texts and letters regarding shielding. And a lot of the shielding group have felt isolated doubly by not being able to go out or communicate with people. They might have had no technology skills to do that. So we've spent a lot of time trying to explain how they can dip in and out. And that's where the tea and talk has worked really successfully. We were lucky that Yorkshire Cancer Research kindly provided that. So we can have up to 49 people talking. Not ideal, but it's a good opportunity twice a week to air any concerns, particularly about the government messages. What does that mean for us? If we've got to wear a mask on such and such a day, why aren't we wearing one now? So we can't question what the government are doing. We're just trying to say, you know, do what is right for you to get through now. Some have got new letters saying that they shouldn't be shielding. Some are angry about that. We're finding updates of what happens at local level is better than what is panned out in the news. That can be through discussions with the Cancer Alliance. The changes can be hourly. So, for instance, we were talking to one patient who was going in for a scan, and she'd been told it was cancelled, then back and it was on. And she entered the hospital to the area she was going to have the scan and said, "We're on." And they said, no, you're not, you're off. So changing so fast that some patients have had a tough time, but they've kind of educated us as support group admins to let people know what's happening at local level. And we've had a direct line with like the breast care team and being able to email about this particular patient is having this issue. How can we resolve it? So I think really there's been a lot of grey area messages in the media and we've had to interpret and respond quite quickly.
And it sounds like then that you've not only been playing a peer support role, which in itself is hugely important, as I've already said, but you've also been that kind of key point between the healthcare professionals and the patients in some cases. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, we've been able to provide patients for podcasts about their experience on entering the hospital to alleviate concerns around COVID and to encourage people to attend those appointments. Some people have been fearful around new symptoms, and it's been about let's look at this a different way because cancer is going to be here after COVID. So how do we weigh up what's right for you? And we put the onus on the patient, but obviously we're promoting some really good stories. Treatment is not, like it says on national level, automatically stopping for cancer patients. We've had someone with symptoms present at the GPs and have diagnostic surgery within 4 to 5 days. That's unheard of. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been a joined up jigsaw, really has.
And I'd actually seen, and you'll have to forgive me because I can't remember whether it was on your group Facebook or whether I saw it on one of your on your page, Ali, but where you'd had a visit to the hospital and you shared about how it was for you and how it felt safe and everything. I hope you don't mind me mentioning that.
No, that's fine. But well, yeah, because
really
like Sara said, I think the people say, you know, I'm a bit nervous about going into the hospital. So, like both of us, if either of us were going for anything, we both sort of felt it was important to share. And obviously wearing a mask, it was the first time I'd been out and had to wear a mask. And obviously the whole situation was, you know, it was really clean. I felt really safe. So that's another thing we've been able to do as a support group, share it with other members, so that then hopefully if they've got appointments, they're not feeling, oh gosh, I don't want to go, you know, because obviously we need them to go. So it has been really useful, hasn't it, Sara?
Yeah, I mean, we have had people with anxiety, people that have had to attend surgery for things like a mastectomy. And normally you'd have someone go along with you as support. And it can be just talking on the phone as they're entering the hospital and saying, we're with you, we're in your pocket. You know, when you come round, when you're able. And you've literally been in the pocket as they're going through every stage, thinking, I wish I could be there, but you can't be. And then you've got people that ring at silly hours because they don't know what to do. And it is a huge fear, but we do our best, don't we, Ali? I think we had one team talk morning. But we've had to get more virtual things like people experiencing lymphedema, wanting to know how do they deal with that. So whereas we contact the hospital to have those mailed out, we've been able to put photos and visuals online so people get it sooner, because obviously there were postal delays as well. We keep quite busy. I mean, Alison's headed up, I'm so proud of her, our Crazy Crafters project. Do you want to talk about that, Alison?
Yeah, so we've been making face masks. Initially, I was not really much of a sewer, but I kind of thought, well, we need to get these face masks made. So I borrowed a sewing machine. Sarah's been busy doing cut out after cut out. You've been cutting out so much material. I think you can't move in your house for material cutouts, can you? And so obviously I'm now. Originally, I was in charge of orders and getting them out to people and taking payments, but now I'm making the face mask more or less till the very last point. And yeah, I've been really busy today with lots of people coming and collecting face masks. So we have sold a lot. We've I feel like we've done a really good job because it's helping people to feel safe. And it's not just people that have obviously gone through cancer. So we're actually doing something completely out of the cancer area, and it's really good to know that we're making a big difference, really. And I think that's why Sara and I got together to run the group, because obviously we both wanted to make a difference and give something back after what we'd both been through, because we both had I wouldn't say a fantastic experience, obviously, but certainly from my point of view, my treatment and everything has been absolutely second to none. And it's kind of giving back and helping the NHS to a certain extent, because obviously we keep fingers crossed helping to keep the cases down. But yeah, and it's quite I quite enjoy it now. I mean, initially I was like, I'm not getting on a sewing machine, I'm never going to sew, and now I'm one of the chief sewers. So yeah, onwards and upwards.
Hobby.
She's graduated.
Yeah. I'll be making my own. Yeah, I'll be making my own clothes next.
Brilliant.
I think what I touched on there is really important, because during COVID, I think we've grown in different ways, skill set wise. I think we've been trusted a great deal more by the NHS. And we've got quite a unique setup in the mid-York hospitals, because we've got Pinderfields, which is a COVID site, and then we have Dewsbury and Pontefract. They're all in 3 locations, but the Pontefract site has become a cancer site. So a lot more treatments and surgeries are happening. So we're quite fortunate. It's not like London. And it's really nice when you get a call out of the blue from a Cancer Alliance member or a member of staff at a hospital saying, I've got a new referral, or you get a patient ring up saying, how do I join? My breast care nurse has been in touch. I want to know more. So it's almost like it's had added huge benefits to us relationship-wise in supporting the NHS at such a crucial time. We've just started up in the ante and restarted our Sunday walks, and we call that crocodile walks because we socially distance while doing it. And it's more of a saunter than a power walk, but again, it's a bit of socialising, and it's a good springboard to get back into doing exercise. We do a minimum of 5k, and that is important because for so many of us, we've not been exercising or out of the house, and mentally that has huge effects. I don't know if you've been keeping fit at all, Nicole.
Sadly, not as much as I'd like to. I've got to admit the weight gain has been significant during lockdown due to inactivity and eating too much chocolate, to be fair. But yeah, it's interesting you say that about keeping fit, because Macmillan did some research, I think it was alongside YouGov, and they found that one of the things people with cancer were telling us in the survey was that a proportion of people just weren't getting out to exercise anymore, and they were really missing it. And obviously we all know it's a really essential part of keeping well. As I say, sadly I haven't been following that advice myself, but keeping well through exercise. But yeah, and I think part of that, and we know it's had like loads of different effects on people with cancer, the pandemic, and especially about like anxiety and mental health issues, and that those are kind of really widespread. It's really interesting because I think what you've been doing with your group is you switched and adapted really early on to being able to do things virtually, which I find really intriguing. Was that difficult at all?
A nightmare.
What was a nightmare about it? How was it kind of, because I know some groups have done it and some haven't, and I just wondered your experiences of it.
My pet hate is technology. I really don't want to learn anything new. Tomorrow I've got a meeting with staff at Jimmy's on what is it now? Microsoft Teams, and it's like, do I really want to do another IT package? I know to some it's going to be easy, but it's another thing I don't want to know. But because of COVID, we've had no excuse. If we need to be there and have a teleconference chat, and have 5 people on a chat, that's easier than having 5 separate hours of chat individually. Yeah. And it's cost effective, and it also means there's peer support. People help people. So it's not totally down to myself and Ali. It's not totally down to Emma just to do gym. We all spur each other on. We've got WhatsApp groups in the background. We know we can ring each other at any time. But without the technology, I don't think we would have had the connectedness that we do now. You might get an email come in and you're on your iPad and you've got minutes of a meeting on your iPad. Then you're on your computer to look at the agenda on your laptop whilst doing a visual conversation like now. And you think, gee, my landline's ringing as well.
Well, certainly not. I mean, I must admit, I've found some of the technology switch difficult because I mean, I'm based from home anyway, but we normally go out for meetings. I mean, obviously, you two know I've met with you two on many occasions, and doing everything virtually is definitely challenging because there's always someone, often me, as you're aware, that has difficulties with the tech. Some people just don't entertain it at all, do they? Have you had any group members who've just gone, nope, I'm not doing anything online, but I'll ring in on the tea and talk, or has that been difficult for some?
I can think of a few individuals who were very active physically, who found the whole concept of Zoom or podcast or anything that involved a computer was like, throw it out the window, it's not real. And they really missed the people contact and felt that it was not natural, it was generated communication. Now we do have occasional texts and in the main phone conversations with those, but I can see that for me, once there's a time when we know COVID behind us, I'm going to switch off IT for quite a long time. How about you? What do you think, Ali?
I mean, Microsoft Teams actually is fine because we use it at work. Well, it's been all right for me anyway, but I know, not everybody's found it easy, but it's fairly straightforward to get on. Zoom has tended to work all right as well. And this, what we're doing this week, the podcasts for me have been all right. But if I didn't have the kids and my husband to sort of press a few buttons and show me where things were, I think I'd have struggled a bit. But I think it's got some of the older people doing a bit more actually in our group. I think we've got our eldest member is she's not a bad issue with tech, bless her. And I mean, nothing to do with the group, but thinking of my own mum, I mean, she has the girls FaceTimer every week, which is something that she had never done before. So I think a lot of our members were quite active, really, weren't they, Sarah? I think that we've got quite a lot of members who are on the Facebook. Nearly everybody manages WhatsApp. So, I mean, like you, Sarah, you know, I'd rather not have to deal with technology, but unfortunately, in our lives, it's there all the time, isn't it? Really. But yeah, to me, I always say it's only as good as the person that made the pro, whatever it's in. And having been a teacher, I always like to have a hard copy. You know, if it was a lesson, I like to have it on a piece as well as on a breaks. I've got the paper, so I mind it. But yeah, I can understand certainly yourself, Sarah. All the phone calls, all the Zoom chats, all the other things that you're having to do.
I just keep thinking about when we're finally released into the open, how much hugging I'm going to do. That's just to warn you as well. So when I actually can see you again, just prepare yourself for all the hugging. But yeah, do you think how will you know when it's okay to go back to face in terms of some of the things you do then? Because obviously with it being such an active group, and I know you were saying you've started your walks again, your crocodile walks. Is it kind of, are you thinking already about other things you'll do face to face, or are you going to stay distanced for now?
Well, we had a calendar for the whole year of theatre trips, days out, flower shows, as well as therapeutic drop-ins. And unfortunately, everything just went upside down, which meant how can we maintain communication through technology until we know it's going to be okay? Now, I've had meetings via Zoom with the cancer partnership groups for updates to understand what the latest information is, what the latest change is. We've been able to have input into some of the letters that are sent out for appointments, make sure that they're to the point and humanistic, but in a really simple way, so people understand that they may have a telephone appointment. They may then be invited to an in-person appointment, and what to expect around, PPE, what to wear, a mask, things like the new thing is having to isolate for 14 days prior to having surgery. And we have to try and pass those communications out so people make the best of the NHS slots. But we're also looking at restarting our drop-in at the hospital in September. Now, we have plans in place, but dependent on the size of the room, we also have to limit how many people can be in a room for distancing measures. So there's been so much work going on behind the scenes that you wouldn't believe. It might be in September we can have 6 people in a drop-in. It might be that we can't hold drop-ins. We know in October we've got a room where we can have up to 10 people. But if that room is changed and reallocated because, let's say, they need some more NHS staff trained in something else, or some students trained to be frontline, everything is just a roundabout that's turning. Yeah. It's hard to plan. We have ideas, but then we have to backtrack.
Yeah, and I suppose that's it. The situation changes so frequently, as you highlighted earlier, and it changes on local levels frequently as well, that actually, yeah, you can plan, but then you have to be sort of flexible about it. Do you think there's any of these digital and virtual things you've put in place that you would like to keep longer term then? Are there some things that have just really worked and you'll keep going with?
I would certainly say the tea and talk works really well because everyone likes a brew and then they're like, yeah. But Yorkshire Cancer Research kindly offered this service to a variety of charities and support groups for COVID time. That will cease at the end of July, but because I've explained the value that part of the group have got out of this, they've extended that for another month. So that will run August twice a week. But hopefully, if things open up again, then we can get into real-time talk and face-to-face talk, even if it's at a distance.
Mm-hmm. How do you think you two will feel, and this is, you don't have to answer this, but feel yourselves about being face to face with people again? Because obviously, as you said, you know, there's huge benefits to that, but there's also a nervousness, isn't there? And as you said, Ali, you haven't been shielding yourself, but you know, you've still, we've all had to get used to kind of slowly going back out into the world. Will you two feel all right about kind of getting together with people face to face again?
Yeah, I think so. I suppose because a lot of the group have been shielding, I think, yeah, I'm in a different position, but for me, I need to work, and obviously, you know, so but we have had to obviously do the 2 meters, and we've had much less sort of people in the building than we will have in September. I think it'll be more making sure that they honest, and it's, I don't know whether we will have to wear masks. I'm not sure whether it'll, you know, hopefully we will be able to do the 2 meters, but if not, whether we will be wearing masks. But I suppose if wear them, there won't be, we won't have an issue with that, obviously. So yeah, I think it's more about them having the confidence. I mean, I don't know, it's no, Sarah, because obviously, you know, you've been shielding. How are you going to feel about it?
Well, it's interesting because when we did crocodile walks, I was conscious of being apart from people and having to extend my voice when I've got quite a quiet voice, just for verbal comms. And I was also quite nervous of how close people came to me. I didn't want, you know, someone put their arm up as if to say, oh, and pat me on the back. And I thought, hey, up, back off. That was the instant thought in my head. And I just politely had to say, I think we need to keep our distance. But I felt really uncomfortable that I wanted to be touched. I wanted to engage, but I was scared too. And I think that's going to happen for quite a long time.
I think there's going to be a lot of people who can empathise with you about that. I mean, I've not been shielding and I feel nervous about other people, you know, when I'm out, if they get a bit close, or, you know, in the supermarket and stuff, and I'm just a bit like, oh, get away from me. And it's so odd. It's so, when you're used to being people who talk to people and touch people, and it's been a very, very strange experience, hasn't it, to kind of go against all your instincts and kind of learn something new. So it's well, sorry, go on.
One thing that Emma's just communicating is that she was thinking, rather than introducing just the live classes for the cancer rehab program, that she would keep one of those online for anyone that's anxious about coming to the gym. I mean, the kind of things that she's been doing, she's been on so many courses around how to deal with COVID, how to make things a clean and professional environment to make people feel safe. She'll be doing things like temperature checks, because obviously in the current climate with the sun, not everyone's got symptoms, but a temperature check is a quick gauge to know whether that person is safe to enter the gym, because you've got to remember, some of these ladies are still going through treatment. And they're using the exercise as one thing to get them through. It might be pain, or it might be to help them sleep, or it might be that they're taking control of the situation. And it will mean taking up your own bottle of water, as well as like a sweat towel to wipe down equipment. She's also looking at the amount of equipment that's in the gym to ensure that people are successfully spaced out. And we'll have, you know, well as hand gels and what do you call it, wipes. I've lost the word, chemo. So yeah, I know it's going to be a big step, because I've seen some, but where people say not a gym. How can gyms be open? And again, it comes down to personal choice.
And I had a brief conversation with Emma earlier about the gym, and it sounds to me like with the things that she's putting in place, it doesn't compare to standard public gyms. You know, it's going to be so much safer environment. Not that I'm criticizing public gyms, but you know, I think it'll have a number of things in place that hopefully will make it feel safe for people. It sounds really positive.
Well, you've just got to compare it to things like Leeds United fans meeting in Millennium Square. You know, there were thousands of people turned up, and you think of how unsafe that makes me feel versus 10 to 12 people spaced out effectively in a gym that's private, and it's cleaned between each session, and you're there managing your own cleanliness. And you can choose if you want to wear a mask or not. So I think that's a lot safer, and from a mental health, to be able to feel part of a group, although distanced, it's edging towards getting back to where we used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wondered as well, I won't keep you too much longer because I love talking to you, but I'm aware you probably have other things to do. But in terms of your own time, you've been doing so much for the group. One thing that's in the back of my mind with groups like yourselves who are particularly active and providing so many things and learning different ways of working is, are you getting any time for yourselves? Are you kind of getting any time to just chill out and relax a bit?
Go on, Ali.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing Joe Wicks on the morning, although he's doing his last session this Wednesday. I've been doing the gym with Emma twice a week, and obviously the tea and talk, which obviously is MY related. But I mean, at the moment, I'm on Mask Central, I'm afraid. But I am going to have a break next week. I'm going to see my mum for the first time since lockdown tomorrow, which I'm looking forward. And obviously, now that I'm at work for 7 weeks, I'm going to try and make the most of that time and sort of get out and about a bit more. But I am still quite nervous about doing that, really, to be honest. Not because I've been shielded, because I haven't, but I'm just still quite nervous about what everybody else is doing, to be honest, even with a mask on. But I know I've got to sort of make those little baby steps and race. So yeah, I mean, I think I've probably got a bit more time than you have, Sara, maybe. I don't know.
I think the way I find my relaxation is spending time in the garden. So this year I've grown potatoes, mint, chilies, rocket, tomatoes. I'm quite self-sufficient, and it's awesome. I don't know any house that hasn't done something in the garden. It's been art and plant therapy and mindfulness, I guess. I cannot forget the deafening silence of when there was no traffic on the roads and how loud the bird sounds were. And when the traffic started again, I still can't get over how close the birds come to you in the garden. It's like one good thing that's come out of COVID. It's done so much for the planet. by people staying home. I always try and turn a negative into a positive. So there's been less pollution, less shopping, though it's cost a lot more financially.
Yeah.
But I've made things good together. We've done a lot of recycling with materials, dresses and shirts being made into all kinds of things. So yeah,
Get bras.
We had bras made
Yeah,
into.
we made hanging baskets. Yeah.
Oh, I saw those. They looked amazing.
It brought a smile.
I like the range of puns that went along with it as well. I very much appreciated that. I was thinking, how many more can you do? Brilliant. Yeah, I know what you mean about the garden though, and you know, I've found that just kind of having that space. I'm very lucky. I've got a small garden, but we do have a garden, which with 2 young kids at home has been so useful. But for me as well, if I can just spend 5 minutes with a cuppa outside in the garden, breathing in the fresh air, and yeah, and when it was quieter, the roads were quieter because I'm surrounded quite a lot by roads. Hearing the birds when it was quiet was like, it's so good for you, isn't it? I've developed a new love of the garden, I think, from this, which is brilliant.
So, Nicole, I understand that there is a campaign by Macmillan, and I think it's worth just a quick mention about the Forgotten Sea. Could you just give us a quick snapshot, because we've got about 7 to 10 minutes left?
Brilliant, yeah. So we started this Forgotten Sea campaign because we were very aware as an organisation that while the world was dealing with COVID-19, as it should be, absolutely, it's, you know, a massive health crisis like none of us have ever experienced. But while that was going on, people are still getting symptoms, they're still being diagnosed, they're still accessing treatment where they can. But equally, some people aren't going to get their symptoms looked at. Some people are not going to get diagnosed as early. And some people have had treatment paused, which has a range of different effects on them. So our campaign is all about saying, you know, while COVID is going on, that is an absolutely important C for us to be thinking about. But actually, we can't forget about cancer. So there's been quite a big campaign, and there's a lot of information on our website about it, about different stages of the campaign, and that's sort of developing all the time. But yeah, people can go on and have a look and get involved. You know, there's a range of different things every couple of weeks. There's like a new part of the campaign that gets launched, and I know our chief exec's been talking to lots of people in a range of services about why it's so important not to forget about cancer. So yeah, we're really concerned that people still are able to access services as they need to. Otherwise, it's just going to build up problems for people in the future. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Sara. It's been hoping it's going to be a really useful campaign. And from an engagement point of view in the work I do, we're still really keen to talk to people living with cancer about the kind of things they're experiencing, about what their concerns are. We've got a webinar coming up in a couple of weeks, actually. I don't know whether you've seen the information, but I can send it to you if you haven't. But and that's really about us connecting to people virtually, because we can't do the face-to-face stuff we normally do, to try and talk about, you know, these are the concerns you're telling us, this is what we're going to do about it. Please continue to get involved with this, continue to tell us what's going on, continue to help us try and improve services. But yeah, so I'm hoping that, you know, we're all hoping that the campaign it's garnered a lot of interest and got a lot of people involved, which is really good. Yeah, so that's been really useful. Thank you for mentioning that.
No, it's a pleasure. I think it's important patients, carers and are able to engage and know their plans and the future of cancer services. So they can obviously contact Macmillan by Googling it online, and there's a free telephone number where people can obviously get financial advice and support with things like benefits, blue badges, and being able to talk to someone So at least we've been able to highlight what's happening in the Macmillan world.
Yeah. And I think
there
I've mentioned, sorry, I was just going to mention the telephone buddies service as well that we've got going on. So the people who are working with your group and with your group have access to lots of people to chat to. You know, you're doing a fantastic job of supporting people. But if there is anyone out there who, you know, or you know anybody who is feeling a bit isolated, maybe they live by themselves, maybe they live with family, but they just want someone different to talk to, we've got a range of volunteers who are prepped and ready to speak to people and give them support. And they call them once a week and they can have a chat about anything. They can talk about what they're worried about. They can talk about cancer, or they can talk about, I think we had one lady the other day who wanted to just chat about soaps. So they had to chat about the soaps, and they had a lovely time talking about Emmerdale and Coronation Street and things. So people can, you know, talk about whatever, but it's a really good service, and all that information's on the website as well. So I've been lucky enough to be working on that scheme for a couple of months and talking to lots of lovely volunteers. So it's been really good. Yeah, I think we just all want to make sure, same as you, that people are able to get support and that they're not feeling alone during this particular time when people are feeling more alone than ever in lots of ways. And, you know, we just kind of don't want to see that happen.
I have to just say that when you said they wanted to talk about soaps, I thought you meant hand wash.
Yeah, hand sanitizer. It's the big conversation, isn't it? Yeah. To be fair, I don't watch the soaps either, but I used to. So yeah, I think. So can I just ask you, because I know we are going to have to wrap up. If you kind of, and this is a bit of a big question, so I'm not sure how you want to answer, but if you kind of wanted to give us one, Macmillan or anyone listening, one sort of message about what your support groups are doing, or you know, about kind of what life's like in general for yourselves and your members, is there anything that you'd like to say that we haven't covered, that we haven't already talked about?
I think the hardest group hit are those that are single, because for me, going through cancer prepared me for dealing with COVID, because I steer clear of people for fear of infection because of chemo and other treatments. And I think Alison would say similar. It's been a good experience, if you like, to prepare us to be on our own with COVID. But for those people that have not been on that cancer journey, I think they've found it tough. And for those that have been diagnosed during COVID, I think that's been doubly hard. So I think contact and communication is the key to everything. Staying in touch in whatever way is vital. I mean, with our oldest member at 84, and now watch YouTube and see Emma and myself talking podcast, and she feels like she's in the same room. So sometimes it's agonising having to explain to people how to do things, but it's the next best thing to being able to be in the same room as someone.
Okay. Do you want to add anything, Alison?
No, I think I'd say the same thing. Yeah, I think it's been a, you know, sort of has been able to do the tea and talk has really actually literally been a lifeline for some people. You know, we've got a few members that are very anxious about not just COVID, but lots of things. And I think it's been really helpful for us to, you know, give them advice. And like Sara always says, it should turn the negative into a positive. And that's what we've tried to do all the way through. So, you know, if somebody's rung in and said that, or whatever, maybe not even on the tea and talk, they've messaged or whatever, and they're feeling very low, we can talk it through and then come up with some sort of solutions and, you know, give them a few things, because obviously we're not all the same. But like Sara says, communication, whether it's, you know, text, telephone, something like this, just being there. And I mean, I've even sent people cards. So it's, if they're not into technology, they're getting a card with a little message in saying thinking of you, you know. So yeah, communication is the key, really, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry, go on, Sara.
I'm conscious that we're going to have to wrap things up.
Yeah.
The good thing is you are welcome to share this with your Macmillan staff.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome to add it to the Macmillan site. We'll also ensure that it's uploaded to the Yorkshire Cancer Community webpage, and you can find it under the Wellbeing tab. Cursor to the lower end of the page and you'll see all of the podcasts. So we've got professionals like yourself from Macmillan, we've got consultants, therapists, and real life patients. So, share that. Be kind.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, and thank you to Emma for setting up all the technology and letting us use her podcast. But thank you to you too, and I am just, as always, just in complete awe of all the things you're doing. And yeah, I've missed you both and the rest of the project group. So when it's over, we'll get together. And I have warned you about the hugs, so just be prepared. Thank you. Anyway, I hope to speak to you again soon.
What I love is, as we just
thank you,
is for you to just stay there, Nicole, just for 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you very much, Alison and Nicole, and we'll be back again certainly next week with Jo Taylor talking about Met Up UK. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
thank you.